All right. Well, welcome to Fat Loss versus Weight Loss webinar. This is a great presentation full of a lot of nutrition and exercise information to help you achieve your goals. My name is Tanya Gilbert. I am the Client Account Executive at American Health Network that brings in the wellness program and the on-site clinic at the Greenwood Andros location. I support our health coach, Robin Bookwalter, with how she supports you by implementing health presentations this year. So my background is in medical research, and I was a health coach for 10 years before getting into wellness strategy and account management over the last 5 years. So we will begin with the presentation today. First thing to note, I'm sure you're all anxious to hear this, but earning your webinar coaching credit will be done via a SurveyMonkey quiz at the end. It's really tough. Just kidding. It's really simple. It's just 3 questions to show that you were, plugged in and paying attention today. To obtain your coaching credit, you must answer at least 2 of the questions correct. Provide your full name and an accurate date of birth, just so we can look you up in the system and assign that session credit. Remember, you can earn up to 2 coaching session credits per wellness plan year. So I will give you the link at the end. I don't think you can actually click the screen to get there, but if you did download the slides on the handout section, if you can see that on the right-hand side of the screen, I also will be sending out the slides with the link after the presentation today to everyone who is registered. So you'll be able to get the link that way. And I would suggest taking it sooner than later. The quiz will close in about a week. So make sure to get that done. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly or to Robin. Okay, so let's get started with the material here. So this is a pyramid showing the importance of what goes into fat loss in the body. So I'm going to go through a few things that you're probably familiar with if you've attempted any fat loss plan. If you look at the bottom of the pyramid here, the first and foremost thing that goes into a fat loss plan is going to be that you have established what's called a caloric deficit. This means that you have to burn more calories or energy than you consume every day. If you don't, you won't lose fat or weight. And it doesn't matter what supplements you take or how much you work out, because it's a lot harder to burn calories than to eat them. So if your diet's not in check, it doesn't matter how much you exercise. If you're not burning off as much as you have consumed, you will not lose weight. The other thing we'll talk about today that's important with fat loss is not just how much you're eating, but what you're eating. And we'll talk about the macronutrients, which include carbohydrates, protein, and fat. There's a certain ratio of how much of each of those macronutrients that you consume that determine whether or not your body is going to burn fat or burn muscle. So it's very important that you take a look at your current intake of macronutrient ratios, and you may need to tweak those a little bit to ensure that your body is going into fat loss. The other thing that's extremely important when it comes to fat loss is what type of exercise you're doing. And there are certain exercises that promote fat loss, like high-intensity interval training and weight training, whereas there's some exercises you might be doing a lot of that aren't really helping you. A lot of steady cardio, power walking, jogging, cycling, these types of exercises are great for calorie burning, but they can ultimately increase your appetite, which what I just mentioned is, you can eat 300 calories in less than a minute if you're eating something, calorie dense like M&Ms or, all that sugary stuff. So, and we'll go into a few tips about your training. The other thing, and I'm not going to go into supplements too much, but if you're wanting to increase protein, I'm a big advocate of healthy protein shakes. Look for ones without artificial sweeteners. I am a big fan of the veggie protein, like the chickpea protein or hemp protein. The other thing that I would encourage to look into possibly as a fat-burning supplement would be green tea. Green tea contains something called ECGC, that helps promote fat burning in the body. Now keep in mind, it does not matter how much green tea you drink if you're not in a caloric deficit. So that is the number one thing that you need to get to a fat loss place in your body. But if you cut that caloric deficit too much, then it can, we'll talk about that, it can work against you. All right. Let's go to the next slide here. So again, the bottom line is going to make sure that you're getting to that caloric deficit, meaning that you're burning more calories than you consume, and you don't want to cut that too much because it'll lower your metabolic rate. And your metabolic rate is going to burn way more calories than you could ever burn in the gym. If you were to just, your basal metabolic rate is how many calories you burn at rest every day. So when it comes to fat loss, it's a very specific equation of what you're doing. And you've probably gotten close to what you're supposed to be doing in the past, but by tweaking what you've done a little bit differently, you're going to see a lot more success, especially long term. So we're looking at getting stronger, fitter, and improving our muscle to fat ratio today, and not just losing weight, but losing fat. So here's the difference between a fat loss plan and a weight loss plan. And if you've ever lost weight and gained it back, you can probably identify with some of the descriptive words here on the left. So you may notice a decrease in your strength and fitness level, probably your energy level. You probably gained the weight back. If not, you gain more than you lost. Unfortunately, that's very common because it lowers your metabolic rate. Your immune system may have been compromised. You might have been getting colds. I've seen a lot of very unfortunate things happen to people who crash diet. It also accelerates aging in the body, not just the, okay, I saw your note, Christine, welcome. So we're just talking about the difference between losing fat and losing weight, whereas fat is going to promote fitness and strength. It's going to improve your immune system. You're going to get stronger. You're going to have more of a vibrant appearance. Your aging will actually, your body age may actually be younger than you are. I can attest to this completely. I personally feel my body age is about 5 years younger than I am, because I definitely follow this. This isn't just me preaching today. I'm talking from experience too, just FYI. And your metabolism is going to increase, which I'll show you a slide of how extremely important it is that we keep our metabolisms up and running. So here's the picture you've probably seen before of muscle versus fat, and this is why the scale can be so daunting. The scale is just giving you the big picture. It's not giving you how much fat's on your body. So you've really got to be careful with using a scale that's just measuring fat. Now, they do make body fat scales. I personally just bought one. It's called the one I bought is called the Unami. It's spelled Y-U-M-A, or hold on, let me look it up just to be sure. It has an app spelled Y-U-N-M-A-I. Unmay, I guess. It's obviously not an American word. Y-U-N-M-A-I. Awesome scale. And the products I recommend, I have no affiliation with other than experiences and positive. But this scale measures 10 different components of your body: your muscle weight, your visceral fat, your body fat, your hydration level. So you can see that other things are fluctuating along with that scale number. It's not just one number that you see and freak out. It's going to show you the changes that are going on internally too. And they are more of an estimate. Body fat scales aren't as advanced as they'd like them to be yet, but they are giving you more than just one number to see in terms of how your body's going to fluctuate. So the scale is not an efficient way to measure fat loss. In fact, you may be gaining a little bit of weight as you burn fat, and I'll go into why that is as we move through the presentation. I suggest if you're really serious about this, you're going to have to start to pay a good attention to how your clothes fit. I would suggest wearing more form-fitting clothes, especially when you're just hanging out at home. Instead of wearing little baggy, PJs, maybe get some tighter clothes that kind of make you feel more aware of your body. Measure your body with cloth measuring tapes. You can get those on Amazon or at any probably sporting goods store. And then, we're in the selfie era. Make sure that you're taking pictures of yourself. Obviously not for vanity reasons other than tracking your progress. And you're going to see a lot from pictures. Has anyone ever seen a picture of yourself and that been your revelation that you need to lose weight? Because pictures don't lie. They show you the different angles of yourself that you may be accustomed to and help you kind of track to see where everything is changing. So one thing that I want to clarify here is the difference between body fat and BMI. So you've probably heard of BMI, which stands for body mass index. A lot of including your employer uses this as a method of tracking your health for your weight. Now, the BMI has a purpose. It was developed by insurance companies to approve gastric bypass surgery and to admit patients for anorexia. So, for example, to get gastric bypass surgery, you may have had to be over 35 or 40 on a BMI scale, and for anorexia for the insurance company to pay for it, you had to be like under 18. So what the BMI is, and you can actually calculate yours right now if you know your height and weight. It's just a height to weight ratio. And it is looking at extremes, but if you're falling in that 25 to 35 range and you've got muscle on your body, the BMI is not a good way to measure your health because it's not looking at body fat, it's only looking at your weight. So body fat is how much fat versus muscle you have on your body. That is the difference. So just remember that. When you hear the word BMI, that's not body fat. So what's a normal body fat percentage? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. I have that chart for you. So if you look at the peach color here, that's going to be normal. Women are going to have more body fat than men on their bodies because women birth children. So I always say with women, it's good to be under 30. Really, regardless of your age, I would suggest staying at or around 30 unless you're elderly, which I don't think anyone on the call today would fit that qualification. For men, I suggest to stay around 20, 25. So depending on your age, as you can see, you may have different levels of normal body fat, but those are just general terms I use when doing health fairs and such. So there are several ways you can get your body fat checked. A personal trainer may use calipers that pinch your skin. A biomagnetic impedance machine is what's inside those scales I was talking about, or if you've ever done the handheld device that you hold out in front of your body, that's the same thing that's in the body fat scale. But you're not to use those if you have a pacemaker, just FYI. So here is a visual aid for you if you want to see what different levels of body fat approximately looks like. This is actually really cool because if you were to guess, you can probably guess your body fat based on the pictures that are represented here by the individuals. And you can kind of maybe guess where you'd like your goal to be. And you can see how once a woman gets over 20, 25, she starts to carry weight around her midsection, which is dangerous because it's closest to the heart. And same with the man. When you start to get over 20, you start to see that body fat accumulating around the abdominal area, which is unsafe. So this isn't just about getting fit and attractive. This is really about body fat in terms of health as well. Obviously, those are both important to all of us. So here's a few images to show you the difference in body fat versus weight. The upper left-hand picture is I think really says a lot. You have two men here that weigh both 250 pounds, but clearly the one on the right is going to be much healthier. He has much more muscle tissue, no fat really much around his abdominal area, and he's strong and fit. Picture on the right at the top is a woman just 12 weeks after training. You can see how her muscles have tightened up. She's also much happier. So you can see how exercise increases endorphins. And then the bottom picture is each woman in this picture weighs 150 pounds. And you can see how shapes and sizes really determine the scale more than body fat. Also, too, I always say, think about it with animals. If you were to judge the health of a dog by its weight and you had a Doberman and a Rottweiler, both weighing 100 pounds, I mean, obviously, that's going to be a huge difference in the health of the animal. It's the same thing with human beings. We're all different, nationalities, heritage. That determines so many different factors of our body shape. African Americans typically have denser bones, so that plays a factor into the scale. So all of these things, the scale is just such a silly way to measure progress. Anyone have a question so far? It's hard to see if you're nodding or shaking your heads when you're invisible, but I am here checking out the chat box and the question box, so feel free to chat if you'd like to chime in here. So going back to what I said earlier, the importance of a basal metabolic rate, keeping that up and running. If you reduce your calories without resistance training, you're typically going to lose muscle if you're in a caloric deficit. That's one of the importance of resistance or weight training that I'll talk about in the exercise section. So you don't want to lose your basal metabolic rate, because if you look at the chart at the bottom, the way that your body expends calories, I mean, think about all the functions that are going on right now with your body. You're breathing, your heart's beating, you're digesting, you're salivating, different things are going on. All of those functions of the body require calories or energy. So the red section of this chart is going to be where the most of your calories are burned every day, and that is through your metabolism, okay? The other part is just physical activity. So you may burn 300 to 600 calories through your gym workout, or if you're taking walks on your breaks, which is great. This plays a part in both your health and in your body fat. But look at the difference in size here. You don't want to mess with the metabolism, okay? And then your body needs energy to digest the food you eat. And different foods take more energy to digest than others. And I'm going to tell you, that's where you get the term really fat-burning foods. There's no such thing really. Anytime you eat calories, your body stops burning fat, okay, because it's calories, and they all add up. There's no foods that are 0 calories. It's all myths. It's all marketing. Okay, I'm just going to give you the rundown here. But when you consume a certain type of food, and I'll tell you all the tricks about this, it takes more thermic energy than others. So we'll go into that here in a second. This is getting good, so hang in there, guys. Good stuff. It's going to help you a lot. So this is just a comparison of why your BMR is so important. Like I said, a 150-pound female, probably their BMR is 1,600 calories a day, whereas exercise burns like 300. It doesn't even compare. So you definitely need to be watching and make sure you don't lower your metabolism, because over time that's going to exponentially add up. And here's how. So here is a comparison that shows you how body composition is much more important than the scale. Both of these women, we have Betty and Amy here, that weigh 150 pounds. So they weigh exactly the same, okay? Same numbers popping up on the scale. But look at the difference in their physique, okay? I know these are cartoons, but I think that's pretty accurate, actually. So one has 30% her, one has 20% body fat, okay? So you can kind of see, too, when you get close to 20, you're going to have a fitness type of physique. You're doing something deliberately when a female has 20% body fat. 30%, I would suggest you probably need to burn some fat for health reasons. So look at the difference in their metabolism. Betty burns 1,398 calories a day at rest. That's her basal metabolic rate, or BMR. Amy has more muscle and less body fat, so she burns 1,545 calories per day, for a difference of 147 calories. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. That's like a handful of Skittles, okay? But over the course of time, when you think of exponential growth, when you think of like saving money in your 401k, and it adds up over time, that's an extra 1,029 calories per week, or 53,208 calories per year. Now, what does that equate to in terms of food? There are 53,000 calories and 98 Big Macs, 207 pieces of cheesecake, 241 pieces of pizza, 483 bananas, or 665 apples. So Amy can eat each of these every year and not gain weight. That's how much more food her body needs to maintain her muscle. Do you see how important that is now? And why this person, you have a friend who looks great and can eat whatever she wants? That's why. It's because she's got muscle on her body. So that's why it's so important to incorporate resistance training into your routine, because we all take vacations and do things where we eat more than normal. But if you have a high metabolism, it's not going to matter. You're not going to gain weight back. Okay. Questions about this slide? All right, great. So the scale, the evil scale here. So remember, the scale can easily mask your fat loss, and it causes a lot of confusion and frustration because one day you're down 5 pounds, the next day you're up 7 pounds. What's going on? That's because 95% of your body is made out of water, and that's the number one thing the scale is reflecting, really, is what your water fluctuation is. The scale cannot measure body fat, obviously, unless it's a body fat scale. I'm talking about a regular scale here. But body fat scales are often inaccurate. That's why a lot of employers haven't moved to using the body fat scale as a measure of health, because it's not a definitive measurement, it's an estimate, whereas the scale measurement is exact. So that's why we're still using the scale, okay? But remember, burning body fat, you know you didn't gain that weight overnight, right? So also you're not going to lose it overnight. You don't gain or lose 5 pounds of fat in 2 days. It takes time to both burn fat and develop lean muscle. It's based on what you're doing habitually. So today we're going to talk about different things you can do nutritionally and with your exercise routine habitually that are going to help you burn more fat. So I wanted to show you exactly what these scale fluctuations are. So one of them is going to represent your sodium intake. Obviously, if you've had Chinese food, you may have noticed a little puffiness in your skin or the scale inflating. That's not a gain or loss of body fat. That's just your body retaining and losing water. Hormones. We have 56 hormones in the body. Aldosterone is a hormone that regulates your body's water balance. It regulates water balance and doesn't cause water retention when you're properly hydrated. So if you're dehydrated, it kind of works backwards. Your body holds on to water. So drinking water can actually help you from retaining water. Cortisol, we've heard of this probably, is the stress hormone. When it's elevated, your body may retain water. So that's another reason why you may feel chubbier during a stressful time. And women, when we have menstruation, you have various hormones that cause temporary water retention. Again, this is not losing or gaining body fat, it's just water weight. Exercising, even cardio, causes little tears in your muscles. So this muscle damage needs to be repaired, right? And as it's repairing, the muscle is inflamed, and this may cause water retention. So you may notice after going to the gym for a week that you're up a couple pounds, and that's going to be pretty discouraging to see, right, if you weigh yourself often. So subconsciously, you may think, well, I'm not going to the gym anymore. I'm just gaining weight. But really, it's an illusion because you're actually burning fat. A few more of these just to help you understand. Glycogen is glycogen stores are stored carbohydrates in the liver and your muscles. 1 gram of glycogen carries 3 times its weight in water, okay? You have about 90 minutes of cardiovascular exercises worth of glycogen stored in your body right now. So if you were to go out and run for an hour and a half, you would see a decrease in the scale, probably at least 5 pounds. And also, if you restrict carbohydrates, you're going to see the scale drop because you're going to deplete your body of those glycogen stores. This is not a gain or loss of body fat, okay? This is why the Atkins diet, some people think it's the only thing that works for them, because when they go on the induction phase, which means you're not eating any carbohydrates for 2 weeks, you will lose, quote-unquote, weight. Now, I do think some people might need to see that scale reduction to be motivated, and that's the beauty of the Atkins diet. But not eating carbohydrates for a human being is not a sustainable or healthy way to live. So it can cause a lot of backfiring. So you just have to know that, that reduction when you reduce your carbohydrates is not a body fat reduction. But it can be helpful to see that number change. But just remember that when you cut carbohydrates, okay? Obviously, digestion plays a role in the scale. When you eat less, you will weigh less. So don't think that just because you've been cutting calories a lot the last couple of days that you've lost a bunch of fat. That typically will backfire too. Also, think about the foods you eat that may be causing you to have bad digestion or to bloat, because you can look 10 pounds heavier than you are based on your digestion being healthy or not. So if you're consuming foods that make you bloated and gassy and uncomfortable, you may not be doing yourself or anyone around you favors. It can be rather unfortunate. So pay attention to what your body likes and what helps you stay healthy with digestion. The other thing it's a catch-22 is that as you burn fat, your body retains water because it's a process. It's a physiological process. This physiological process cannot be measured with a scale. It's a process in the body that's going to cause fluctuations in water, and it's not being represented accurately by your home scale, okay? Scale is just measuring that water weight. So here are the basics, and we'll go through these individually here. Quantity of food, portion control, bottom line. You've got to reduce the amount of food you're eating to burn fat. So caloric deficit is the #1 factor in fat loss, okay? It doesn't matter if you're eating broccoli. If you eat enough broccoli, you get fat, okay? That's it. There's no secret to it. If you eat more than you consume, if you have a caloric surplus, your body's going to store fat. And if you really slice your calories down too much, your body is going to end up using your muscle tissue and hold on to your fat. This is a survival mechanism. Think about it. If you're on a desert island for 30 days and you have a lot of body fat, you probably live. It keeps you alive longer than muscle. If you are really fit and have low body fat, unfortunately, you probably die off quicker than the overweight people because your fat's going to keep you alive longer. Your body knows this. You kind of have to trick it by what you're doing. But muscle tissue is 3 times more active than fat tissue. That's why your metabolism increases, is because it needs more energy to be sustained on the body. The next thing to note is that the quality of your food is a huge factor when it comes to body fat. Whole foods are going to help that physiological process of fat burning by providing you the proper vitamins and nutrients that your body needs to fill those processes out correctly. And remember, portion and moderation will still apply for healthy food. You may notice that you eat less when you eat healthy, and that's why you've lost some weight, maybe when you are fat when you've eaten healthy. But if you're not watching your calories, that will probably level off, and you're going to have to take a look at what the quality of the food that you're eating and the quantity. Also, I've done a little research on if you should have large or small meals. When your body consumes, for the average person, over 700 calories, for a lot of people this will cause your body to temporarily go into a fat storage mode. So I would suggest keeping your meals, not 700 calories is a lot of food. So I mean, a 500-600 calorie meal is where I would suggest as a health coach to try to stick to something around that range. That'll also keep you spacing your meals out throughout the day. A question I get a lot is should I eat 5 meals a day or 3 meals a day? The research comes down to how many calories overall at the end of the day, and that's going to be whatever makes you the most satisfied. If you like smaller snacks, have your snacks, but watch your total, if that makes sense. And the myth, if you should eat late or not, it doesn't matter. It's all about the total calories per day. It doesn't matter when you consume them. Your body doesn't know what time it is, so it's really, the eating at night comes into problems when you eat a whole day's worth of food and then you grab the ice cream container at 10 p.m. That's a problem. Hopefully that shows you the difference. The other basics we'll touch on today are going to be, if you're wanting to burn fat, you probably should look at your sugar and starch intake. And this is because of insulin. Insulin is the #1 hormone in the body that causes fat storage. It unlocks the cells, causing them to store fat. So when you consume sugar and carbs, your blood sugar goes up, right? And your pancreas then releases insulin to bring the blood sugar back down. So you don't want to have more insulin than you need running around your body if you're trying to burn fat, okay? So I would suggest moderately consuming carbs or starch and sugar, and that includes fruit. If you're eating a ton of fruit and you can't burn fat, you may want to look at the amount of fruit you're eating. Fruit's great. In moderation, everything's great, but it just depends on your physiology. Also, when your blood sugar is elevated, typically your appetite and cravings are too. That's why a lot of people may notice that they have less sugar cravings when they consume less carbohydrate. So this is something that I would suggest paying attention to and seeing what works the best for you. What level of carbohydrates keeps you satisfied and prevents you going into having an increase in your appetite and prevents you from burning fat. The other thing that often people neglect when trying to burn fat is looking at their stress level. if you're high stress and you've got a high level of cortisol, that's really going to help, really going to cause you to have challenges trying to burn fat. Not only does cortisol cause cravings and water retention, but cortisol receptors are located around your abdomen, so a lot of people will store fat there when they are stressed out. So it's something to note. How are we doing? Does anybody have any questions so far? You guys doing okay? All right. All right, so one thing that I did want to cover is what a calorie is. People think they're horrible, but they're not. They're just measures of energy. So how much energy are you consuming every day? They are not tiny creatures that live in your closet and sew your clothes to be tighter every night. Oh, that was pretty funny. Calories, where do they come from? What kind of calories you eat, meaning the quality of the food you're eating, affects your health, affects the hormones in your body, will affect your cognitive function and your mood. But when it comes down to fat loss, you're really looking at calories out versus calories in. So remember that. You can't just automatically eat healthy and expect to burn fat. You have to look at the quality and the quantity of the food or the calories, okay? We have a question. What about diet soda? Does it cause increased appetite and fat storage? I would do some, take a little bit of time and look up the dangers of aspartame and Splenda that they're using in these Coke Zeros and Pepsi Ones and all that jazz. I firmly believe, in my experience as a health coach and through the research I've done, that yes, they do cause an increase in appetite. The reason being is because they mess with the hypothalamus in the brain. Your taste buds are tasting something sweet, and your body's expecting calories, but it doesn't get them. So in the research I've done, it causes the cravings for sweets. They've done a lot of research on it, but it's very dangerous. It causes a lot of, it can cause a lot of cognitive issues, energy issues, because think about it, diet sodas are just chemicals. So you're pouring artificial chemicals into your body, and that's not doing you any favors. If you're needing to drink something sweet, I would suggest looking at this product called Stir. It's an organic stevia-based product. Stevia is a plant. Again, you want to use that in moderation. Don't have 50 glasses of stevia sweetened drinks every day. But that may be a good alternative to a diet sweetener or diet soda. So that I would definitely avoid artificial sweeteners, artificial diet drinks. That's a great question. Thank you for that. Another question is how to get rid of fat around the waist. Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry, I have a slide on that for sure. Great question. So here's just a quick calorie comparison for you to see the difference in how much food you can eat when you are eating healthier. So this may be a great first step for someone who wants to lose fat. If you're not ready to calculate calories and macronutrients, maybe to start eating healthier, because you'll get so much more food for the same amount of calories. So even like money too. I mean, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck here. So we have a burger and fries as compared to 5 plates of healthy food, or 1 cinnamon bun compared to multiple servings of fruits and vegetables. It really depends on where you're at. If you're wanting to really, really get down your body fat, you have to look at what's in all these fruits and vegetables, how much sugar. Grapes and carrots are actually higher in sugar than a lot of the other fruits and vegetables. So you have to look a little closer when you're wanting to really get down to what's creating a fat loss diet or not. So here's a little bit. We'll talk about the nutrition that goes into losing fat on the body. Remember, quality nutrition and a caloric deficit, and that's going to be your best bet to have success here. You want to consume clean foods or whole foods is what I would suggest, something that's nutrient dense. Leafy greens, vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, lean sources of protein. Who can tell me what some lean sources of protein would be? Any suggestions? Fish, great. Great option. Anybody else have a chicken? Perfect. These are going to be mostly your white meat, turkey. Somebody has a question about BMR. How is it calculated? You can look them up on the internet. That's a good question. If you Google BMR calculator, there's 100 of them out there. But you put into a formula on a web page what your height is, your weight is, and how active you are, and you can get an estimate. Also, if you're using a fitness tracker or like a MyFitnessPal, I think might have a way it's calculated on there for you. It includes that formula in the app. There's different formulas, but you can get a basic idea. Some gyms can do a test on you. You have to breathe into a machine in a fasted state to get your exact BMR, but it's going to change. You know, it's going to change as your fitness level changes. So I would just try to get an idea and stick to something around that estimate, but that's a good question. Last time I calculated my BMR was like 1,400. So it's just, you just have to know the different specifics for activity level, height, weight, and some information on your body fat. Oops. Venison, pork, tuna, those would all be great sources of lean protein too. Thank you for contributing. So I would encourage getting your carbs from fruits and vegetables and try to avoid anything in a package if you're wanting to burn fat. Processed carbs are full of preservatives, chemicals, and additives, and typically are high in starch and sugar. And when you're dining out, and you can still dine out, try replacing the grains in your dishes for non-starchy vegetables like the broccoli, squash, cauliflower, asparagus, green beans, things like that. And really beware of the starch and sugar that's hidden in condiments like ketchup, soy sauce, barbecue sauce, any kind of sauce, including your salad dressings. Be very careful because those are a horrible place for calories and sugar. Balsamic vinaigrette sounds healthy. It's full of sugar, okay? It's full of sugar. It has some healthy fat in there, but you really want to watch that starch and sugar. Just get the vinegar and oil and watch how much oil you're using, okay? Moderate any kind of fat, but that's going to be your healthiest option. Question about the meals. 700 calories per meal. Yeah, in terms of the meals, I would just suggest keeping that at your max per meal, and then total at the end of the day relating to 3 or 5 meals a day. It really doesn't matter how often you eat. It just matters whatever works for you. And if you're eating 3 meals a day, you know, that's 3 times 7 is 21. That's 2,100 calories. That's going to be, depending on your BMR, it may be hard to burn fat with 2,100 calories unless you're a very active male. So that may be, you know, just your max for how many calories are in your meals, if that makes sense. So you could break them up. If you were trying to stick to 1,800 calories a day, that would be 3 meals at 600 calories or 6 meals at 300 calories. Hopefully that would answer your question. But at the end of the day, you just need to eat 1,800 for that example. I'm not sure what your BMR is, but that's how I would break that down. How many grams of sugar do you recommend you should consume a day? Again, that's debatable, but it would be whatever keeps you satisfied and keeps you from overeating, and also is, you know, from your fruit instead of your candy. So in terms of the next thing that we're going to review is macronutrients. So the 3 macronutrients, again, are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Depending on how much of these you consume each day, how much of a ratio of the 3, hormonal events will occur in the body. Different hormones will be released in the body, including testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin. So we talked about insulin. Testosterone and growth hormone are produced typically by consuming protein and working out a specific way, and I'll tell you about that when we get to the workout section. So you want to look at the quality, the timing, the amount, and the ratio of the macronutrients on a daily basis to look at the effects of these hormones. Another question, if I go to a restaurant and have a 1,500 calorie meal, but I don't eat much at all for the day, am I getting ahead? Yes, but when you do that, that may be straining the body because of the long time between meals. You may not be able to sustain that, and then you go into overeating. So spacing your meals out throughout the day is typically better to prevent that. Some people do something called intermittent fasting, meaning they do that. They have one large meal a day, or they only eat between like 3 and 6 p.m. and they have success with that because it does increase the growth hormone in your body, which can speed up your metabolism and your ability to build lean muscle. When I've worked with people specifically, I've not seen anyone have success with that. It always backfired, and they end up eating more than they should. So it really depends on you and your schedule. But if you've been eating like that for a while and you aren't noticing any fat loss, then I would obviously suggest trying something different. That's a good question too. So in terms of the macronutrients, fat has more calories per gram. So I always say it's more caloric dense. So you want to make sure that you're measuring the foods that are high in fat, just to make sure that you're not, it can be an optical illusion for how many calories are in like a tablespoon of oil. It's 13 grams of fat and 130 calories. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but if you're not measuring that, you can easily throw off your whole fat loss plan. Same with things like peanut butter, nuts, and I'll show you a picture that will exemplify this. But when it comes to the thermic effect of food, fat doesn't take a whole lot of energy to digest. Protein does. Protein is the hardest macronutrient for your body to digest, and then carbohydrates, and I'll show you a chart. So when you're dividing up these three things in your plan, me personally, I keep my fat a little higher than my trainer recommended because it kept me more psychologically satisfied with my plan. I didn't feel like snacking when I upped my fat. It kept me fuller because fat is more psychologically satisfying than carbs or protein. But protein keeps you fuller longer, whereas carbohydrates can actually make you feel hungrier, but that you need them if you're active because you need that source of energy. So you have to play around with the ratios based on how you feel. That's why no one can probably create a meal plan for you. You have to sit down and actually do the detective work yourself because it comes down to you. And our food preferences go back to childhood even. You know, so there's no way that a health coach can write a meal plan for you that's going to be perfect for you. You're going to have to work with her to figure that out. And it's kind of fun. You get to realize what actually works for you. So dividing up your fats, carbs, and proteins to specific ratios each day is something called nutrient partitioning. If you're on social media, a cool way to look this up is the acronym IIFYM. It stands for If It Fits Your Macros. The other thing, hashtag meal planning, is an excellent thing to look up on Instagram or Twitter. But this means the manipulation of the macronutrient ratios. And you can find different meal plans that people have used for ideas to build your own. But the macronutrient ratios that you consume affect the body's ability to lose fat, gain fat, or develop muscle. Okay? So if you just reduce calories but you don't look at your macronutrients, your body's going to lose both muscle and fat. And you're probably going to lower your metabolism. But if you want to really reduce your body fat, you got to look at the percentages of these fats, carbs, and proteins that you're consuming every day. These take extra importance when it comes to body fat reduction. So what are those ratios, Tanya? Oh, glad you asked. Every time I do this, I try to get a little bit ahead of myself with the questions I've been seeing. So typically the American diet, and I would say if you were to calculate your macronutrient that you consumed this past few days, you're probably right here. Most Americans, maybe I would say less protein, more carbs even, but you're probably in the maintenance category. People that are deliberately trying to gain muscle are going to eat a caloric surplus with a lot of protein and carbs because that's what the body needs to burn muscle. Now let's say that you had a caloric surplus and you weren't working out. You'll definitely gain fat. And we're not talking about muscle developing today. We're talking about fat loss. But just that's how the body cannot build muscle and burn fat at the same time. Okay? But when you're using your muscles and working out, when you're in a caloric deficit, it triggers your body to retain the muscle. It gets a little confusing. But this is a whole other ball game right here. We're not talking about making muscle gains. So this is the macronutrient plan I would recommend to somebody who wants to burn body fat. Okay? And like I said, you can play around with these ratios to meet your psychological needs with food and to meet your body's needs. Like I had to up my carbs because I run, and when I was at 15% carbs, I was dragging. And nobody wants, you don't have to feel like that when you're burning fat. You really don't. So I upped my carbs and lowered my protein slightly, and I was sailing. So you have to kind of play around with this. They give you some ranges, but essentially you want to stick to something similar to the Get Lean portion here. So that really looks like, what is a fat loss diet? Higher protein, moderate fat, and lower carb. And I'm not suggesting anything like the Atkins diet here. And the cool thing about if it fits your macros, the IIFYM, is it does not matter what you're eating here. If it fits your macros, it can be in your plan. You can have your Pop-Tart for breakfast, and I would not recommend that from a health standpoint. I'm trying to juggle how if it fits your macros works versus the the health side of it here to keep you healthy, but you can fit anything in your plan if it fits your macro totals, okay? So this is just to illustrate why we have that change in carbs, fats, and proteins each day. Lipids is fats. Thermogenesis, or the thermic effect of food, is what the energy needed to digest the food, okay? So protein is the highest. It takes about 30% of the calories in the protein to digest it. It's harder for the body to digest protein. Carbs, 10 to 15%. Fat, hardly any energy at all is needed to digest the fat. So that's why a diet that's higher in fat might need to be tweaked, because the thermic effect is not working with you. You want these things to work with you, not against you. Just getting that sail up so that you're moving forward, okay? This is a picture to illustrate why you need to measure your fats out, because this could really be upping your calories way over to a surplus without realizing it. Fats are more caloric dense, so you have to literally look at these pictures, okay? 380 calories or 32 grams of fat for the peanut butter on the left versus 190 calories or 16 grams of fat. I think those look the same, okay? But obviously they're a huge difference. So if you've ever eaten peanut butter out of the jar, I would suggest not doing that anymore and getting yourself some measuring spoons. They are cheap. You can get, a couple sets of them on Amazon for probably $10. Same with nuts. Don't eat out of the bag. Don't eat trail mix out of the bag. That's even worse. It's got a lot of sugar in it too. So measure your nuts. Put them in plastic baggies or Tupperware. Don't just grab the bag. Don't just pour. Measure it out, or there's no way you're going to be able to meet your goals if you don't take a look at some of this, because this amount of calories could be how much you're burning off in the gym. And if you think that you're doing everything and not losing weight, here's what may be going on. It's these optical illusions, and it's nobody's fault. You don't feel bad about it. I've done it. It's just hard when you're trying to eyeball something that's almost impossible to gauge. So just get yourself some measuring tools, stock up on those, have a couple sets in your kitchen so that you have them available, or keep them out even. So make sure you're measuring your portions and your fats for sure. Are carbs the enemy? Not necessarily. You have to look at what the carbs are and making sure that you have enough to stay in your caloric range, if that makes sense. But remember, they do produce insulin. So if you have a lot of carbs, you're going to have more insulin, which could equal fat. So reducing that could help you have less fat storage. But remember, if you consume more calories than you expend, you're going to gain fat. It doesn't matter if it's coming from carbs, fat, or protein. So remember, you got to look at how many carbs it takes for you to stay satisfied and energized, I would say, if you're active, and stay within your caloric goal. And just a quick, reminder of what's bad and good when it comes to carbohydrates. You want to look at the vegetables, fruits, and greens for your carbs, not the sugar cereal and white foods and soda, mainly because those are going to spark your appetite and you're going to want to eat more. That's not going to help you out. So when you're shopping, this is a slide I would print out if nothing else today, and I'll send this to you here shortly after we get off our presentation today. This is something that should go in your wallet or up on your cube or your desk. So this is a great list to help you get the right foods for your macro plan. So the foods on the far left in green are going to be high carbohydrate foods. These are foods that have mostly carbohydrates. When we move into this pea green color here, these are foods that overlap into the protein category. So these are carbs these are high carb foods, but they do contain a little bit of protein, okay? The middle category, where it's all red, I'll use my highlighter here, this category is high protein foods, lean proteins. Great job saying the sources because they're all in here. Greek yogurt, when it says Greek yogurt, it's plain Greek yogurt, not the strawberry surprise with blueberries and stuff. That's nasty sugar-laden yogurt. Don't buy that anymore. Get yourself some plain Greek yogurt and put some fresh fruit in it with some chia seeds. As Robin will tell you, is a great source of protein and fat. Those are excellent food to consume. They pull toxins out of the body. They're amazing. Get yourself some chia seeds and measure them. But I'm not talking about, you know, sugary Greek yogurt, just the plain, which has about 6 or 7 grams of sugar per serving. If it's over that, don't use it. Throw it away. This category here is going to be foods high in protein and also have some fat. You're looking at your eggs, your bacon. Salmon is typically a higher fat fish. Chia seeds, cottage cheese, duck, and whole fat, I would say whole fat Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is higher in protein than other yogurts, so I would really suggest switching to just Greek yogurt if you consume yogurt. And then here are some sources of healthy fats. You've got your avocado, nuts, nut butters, oils, and flaxseed. Measure your fats. Absolutely, every day, all day. I don't care how long you've been doing this. Measure them, just to be sure. It's simple and really easy, and you get the hang of it quickly. So this is a great list to take with you to the store to use to help you identify what you need to fit into your macro plan. And writing a macro plan can be a little challenging. I'm going to show you how to do that. Go over here. Go to the next slide. This is a nourishment bowl, something you can build to help you meet your macro plan. It's a really fun way to eat healthy. Helps you pick your proteins, your fats, and your complex carbs. And then these little extras here are healthy things like kimchi or apple cider vinegar, lemon juice. Sauerkraut is full of probiotics. I wanted to give you something because somebody had asked me for a recipe, and I thought this is a preparing recipe, but it's really simple, something you can probably make quickly for lunch. But to calculate your macronutrients, here's a tool online you can use. So if you're wanting to stay at 2,000 calories a day and 20% carbs with 50% protein and 30% fat, you can calculate this by hand. But this will show you how many grams of each of those, each of those per day you need. So an app that's free too, I know it's on the iPhone, I can't speak to the Droids, but there are apps that calculate your macronutrients. I believe MyFitnessPal does it too. I've not used that. It does a lot of things. So if you're just looking for a macronutrient calculator, this one is free. It'll help you. And as you log your carbs, fats, and proteins you've consumed each day, it'll tell you what you have left. So here's a chart that'll show you how this works. So if you eat 2 slices of bread, that's got 138 calories because that's the bottom line. You got to have your calories. 7 grams of protein, 23 carbs, and 2 grams of fat. So you can see how these will add up throughout the day. So let's say you get down to your total and you've got like 300 calories left and you need 50 grams of protein. So you know you need a food that's high in protein, just protein. Or maybe you need a protein shake. Do you see how that works? As you consume foods throughout the day and you log them, it'll tell you how much you need, how many carbs, fats, and proteins you have left. If you're really low on fat, you probably need to add olive oil to your salad for dinner. You'll get the hang of it as you do it, but this is how you calculate a macro plan. And it's hard to get exact on if I go back to the original, it's hard to get exact on how many grams you need per day. These grams here on the right. But you get close, and when you start to get close and you're consistent with it, you start to see these hormonal changes in the body more towards a fat burn than a fat storage. The other thing I suggest is purchasing smaller plates and utensils. They've done studies that show when you consume food on smaller plates and utensils, you're more likely to consume less food. So that's something that's a small investment to make to help you be successful. And make sure that you're eating mindfully. Think about your favorite movie. I think someone shared at the presentation last week, Shawshank Redemption. So if you were to watch it on fast forward, would you really enjoy it? Probably not. So you're going to want to watch it again. Same with food. If you eat food really fast and you don't savor it or experience your food at all, your brain's going to be like, hello, I'm still waiting on something. Because a good meal eaten the right way releases dopamine on the brain, which is your feel-good neurotransmitter. So if you're, wanting to have that experience from food, you need to slow down and enjoy it. All right. So finally, I have a few tips just to help you get on the right track with your fat loss and your exercise. One of the things that can be incorporated, but you might want to watch this because steady cardio is great, and this means that your heart rate is steady throughout the exercise. It doesn't give you a real metabolism boost, but you do burn calories while you're doing it. It's good for your heart. So I would say include some kind of jogging or stationary bike or cycling into your routine. But this is actually a better form of cardio for fat loss called high-intensity interval training or interval training cardio. This is what's going to help you burn that belly fat, okay? It involves varying your heart rate from a work period to a rest period. This is like sprinting as hard as you can for 30 seconds to a minute and then walking for 30 seconds to a minute. You should be pushing yourself to the point where you have to stop. And I'll show you your heart rate monitor, which I strongly suggest, where your heart rate should be, because that'll help keep you accountable to how fast you're really pushing yourself. These sessions are shorter. An interval session is probably 20 to 30 minutes. So you're going to burn less calories during the session than doing an hour and a half of cardio, a steady cardio, but your metabolism boosts from intense training. So it's like a catch-22 or 6 in one, half dozen in the other type of situation. But the cool thing is your body can't really adapt to interval training, so it's really good if you've already been active and you're not seeing results. But it's awesome to incorporate it because this will increase growth hormone in the body, testosterone on the body, and help you get that BMR boost that you need to help you burn fat. It also typically does not increase your appetite, whereas steady cardio will. Your body will realize what you're doing and say, okay, I can anticipate that you're going to burn 300 calories tomorrow. I'm going to make sure you consume that because I'm going to tell you to eat more. So if you've been doing steady cardio every day for a while, you're probably consuming enough calories to sustain your weight. This is what I'm talking about when I said heart rate. So if you're wanting to burn fat, you're going to have to try to do interval training and get your heart rate up to a decent range. This fat burning zone is kind of a myth. It means you're burning more fat at a lower heart rate, but you really would have to walk for like 3 hours a day to really burn enough fat in this zone. So that's why I say 20 minutes interval training is probably going to be better for you. So if you're watching your heart rate, let's say we have a 30-year-old male here, you can determine your heart rate if you do 220 minus your age to get an estimate of where you're, so 220 minus his age is 190. Does that make sense? 220 minus 30 is 190. So you need to be getting close to your max during those intervals. And obviously talk to your doctor before starting interval training. Make sure that you're not, having any heart issues, because this is an intense workout. But chances are, if you've been doing steady cardio, you're staying in the 130s or something. This is for this individual. So you want to start pushing yourself to get up to that 170. You don't necessarily have to hit your max. You just need to get, and your heart rate will increase the more you work out like this. You should see it climb. Your max should climb. So this is why I really encourage using a heart rate monitor. It's a very important tool if you're working out like this. People have told me, oh, I don't want to wear the chest strap. I promise you're not going to feel it. Fitness trackers that do heart rate on the wrist, like the Apple Watch, I've heard those aren't incredibly accurate. I can't attest to the Apple Watch, but I have a Fitbit, and it's definitely not accurate when it comes to the wrist heart rate. It catches your resting heart rate, but that's about it. So these work by transmitting your heart rate from the chest strap to a watch. There are some that use just the chest strap, and I'm going to show you if you're wanting to get a heart rate monitor, which, like I said, is a great tool to see how your heart rate's going and during those intervals. Here are a couple that I would suggest. If you're just starting out, the Polar FT7 is a basic strapped chest strap and wrist watch. If you want to use just the strap and an app on your phone, a great one is the Polar H10 or H7 is the older model. All of these run less than $100. But there's hundreds of heart rate monitors out there, so that's why I just wanted to give you somewhere to go in case you don't get confused. But I use the H10 and I pair it with a Polar watch that's Bluetooth compatible, so I have both because I like to see my progress on this app. Is awesome. The colors at the bottom show you which zone you've been in and for how long. But it's hard to hold your phone and look at your heart rate when you're outside running, so that's why I got a watch that works with the H10. But you can, there's all kinds of heart rate monitors out there. You can feel free to reach out to Robin or I with questions, but these are just a couple that'll help get you started. And finally, no fat loss program is complete without your resistance training. So if you're new to resistance training, I would strongly suggest working with personal trainer for a couple of sessions. A lot of gyms will give you 3 free sessions when you join. Pretty sure LA Fitness and Lifetime do that here in Indiana. I can't attest to the out-of-state people, but a lot of times they'll offer you sessions, or you could try to meet with somebody a few times. It can be expensive, but it's well worth it to make sure that you're using proper form and not hurting your body during your weight training sessions. Also, anytime you go to a class that has weight training, it's like working with a personal trainer. You can get tips and tricks from the instructor and take those into the gym and use them during your regular workout. But remember, if you're reducing your calories without weight training, you're going to lose some lean muscle. So this is really important to incorporate if you're wanting to keep your BMR up and really get your body to burn fat. So here is a sample exercise plan that I would suggest for someone wanting to burn body fat. A couple days of high-intensity interval training. For example, 30 seconds of intense pushing yourself, 60 seconds of rest, and do that about 8 times. It should take you about a half hour. You can do interval training as a sprint. You can do it on a bike. You can do it. Essentially, weight training is a form of interval training, but I'm talking about cardio here. Any type of thing to get your heart rate up, whatever kind of machine it is. If you're looking at your heart rate, you want to have work and rest intervals. And then maybe a couple days a week, try, power walking, steady jog, just to help keep you burning calories. Interval training should only be done every other day and no more frequent because it's harder on the body to repair the muscles when they're intensely pushed. Resistance training should be performed about every other day and making sure that you're working on muscle groups. If you work with a trainer, I can almost guarantee you're going to start you on a muscle conditioning program, meaning you're doing about 12 to 15 reps and 3 sets of each on every major muscle group. We could talk the whole hour about resistance training, so this is just a brief overview and with some suggestions for you. And remember to change up your routine. Your body can adapt to workout in as little as 2 weeks. So something called periodizing is what a lot of trainers are recommending now. This means that you do the same routine so that your muscles build, because the muscle builds because it anticipates the use. It can use that you're consistent for a little bit of time, and then you switch it up to prevent adaptation. So I would say change your routine every 4 weeks at the longest. And again, make sure to talk to your doctor before starting or changing your exercise routine, including resistance training, to make sure that you're healthy for exercise. So in summary, what we've talked about today is that the scale does not accurately measure the fat loss of your body. It's a process that takes time and number one, needs a caloric deficit that's best achieved through eating mindfully and your consumption of whole, clean foods. And remember, the right types of exercise and activity will greatly improve your success by reducing your body fat and improving your quality of life. And if you commit to the guidelines we talked about today and you set your goals and trust the process, I guarantee you'll have some good success. Any final questions about the material today? Awesome. I know we went a couple minutes over, so I'll quickly go through the final slides here. So you now completed the webinar, Fat Loss versus Weight Loss. To earn your coaching in-session credit, please follow the link. It's just surveymonkey.com/EndressQuiz2. This will also be emailed to you if you have registered for the webinar. And you can earn up to 2 coaching session credits per year doing presentations and webinars. The other thing to remember is that you have a health coach available to you. Robin Bookwalter is available for phone and face-to-face coaching. She's wonderful. So make sure to reach out to her if you like to work on getting your coaching sessions in. And then I have developed a few social media connections. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn if you like to connect there. I also have a Facebook page I use to post various health information. And I'm now on Twitter, where I can retweet some great articles and fitness type of articles as well. And if you're interested in the resources used to write the material today, some great books here by the Tita brothers, and Tom Venuto is a genius when it comes to fat loss. So I would say get these on audio, keep them on in your car, you'll learn a lot. Help you stay motivated. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today and for participating in the webinar. And like I said, I will send out the slides and the information to complete the quiz if you need it here shortly. So thanks and good luck with your goal.